Did you really think someone like me would look at someone like you? The words cut through the air like sharp blades, echoing through the elegant office on the 47th floor of Chen Industries. I, Maya Rodriguez, 28 years old, a secretary for 3 years at that company, felt my world collapse when I heard those words coming from the lips of Vincent Chen, the most feared and respected Chinese-American mogul in New York. If you want to know how this story ends and discover the secrets that will shock you, subscribe to the channel now. Turn on the bell so you don't miss any twists in this amazing story. It was a rainy Friday in October when my life changed forever. I was organizing contracts on Vincent's desk when, by accident, I knocked a coffee cup over some important documents. My heart raced. Vincent Chen wasn't known for his patience. "Miss Rodriguez." His voice cut through the silence like a whip. "What the hell did you do?" Shaking, I crouched to clean up the mess. "Sorry, Mr. Chen. It was an accident. I can reprint everything." "Stop." He stood up from his Italian leather executive chair, his 6 feet 1 inch frame looking even more imposing. His dark eyes, which had already terrified directors of major corporations, were now fixed on me with a disdain that made me feel smaller than an insect. At 35, Vincent Chen was the definition of success. The son of Chinese immigrants who built an empire from scratch, he had transformed the family business into an international powerhouse with billions in revenue. His angular face and striking features graced the covers of business magazines, but his reputation for being ruthless in business was as famous as his wealth. "Do you know how much a mistake like this costs?" He moved closer, and I could smell the expensive perfume mixed with his intimidating energy. "These contracts are worth $50 million. I can fix it." My voice came out as a whisper. "Fix it?" He laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. "You think someone from your position can fix something that people far more qualified took months to prepare?" The way he said "your position" hit me like a punch in the stomach. I knew exactly what he meant. Maya Rodriguez, daughter of Mexican immigrants, raised in Queens, who worked 3 jobs to pay for college. To him, I was just another disposable employee. "Mr. Chen, please. Do you want to know the truth, Maya?" He used my first name for the first time in 3 years, but not in the way I had always dreamed. "People like you shouldn't even be in the same building as people like me. You think you belong in this world?" With those department store clothes and that servile attitude. Each word was like poison being injected straight into my heart. I had admired Vincent Chen for so long, not just for his intelligence and success, but for how he honored his roots while conquering the American world. I saw in him proof that immigrants could reach the top. But in that moment, seeing the way he looked at me, with disgust, disdain, as if I were something that sullied his $1,000 Italian shoes, I felt something die inside me. "You're fired," he said simply, returning to his desk. "Human resources will process your exit." And Maya, he didn't even turn to look at me. "Next time you apply for a job, remember your place." I left that office staggering, carrying my small box of personal belongings, a mug my mother gave me, a photo of my family, and some cheap chocolates I kept in the drawer for tough moments. While waiting for the elevator, something strange happened. For a second, I looked back and saw Vincent standing at the door of his office, watching me. There was something different in his eyes, confusion, regret. But when our eyes met, he quickly closed the door. That night, I cried myself to sleep in my small apartment in Brooklyn, not just for losing the job, but for the humiliation. For the way he made me feel small, insignificant, as if my 3 years of dedication meant nothing. But I didn't know that Vincent Chen had stayed awake all night too. I didn't know that for the first time in years, he was questioning his own actions. And I certainly didn't know that our story was only just beginning. What I didn't expect was that, in a few days, he would find out who I really was. And when that happened, all the prejudices and barriers he had built would come crashing down like a house of cards. Because Maya Rodriguez was keeping a secret. A secret that would change everything between us forever. 3 days had passed since my dismissal, and I still couldn't get out of bed. The 1-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn never felt so small and suffocating. With every ring of the phone, my heart raced, thinking it might be Vincent calling to apologize, to say he had made a mistake. But the phone never rang for me. "Mija, you need to eat something," my mom Carmen said, entering the room with a tray of homemade food. Her brown eyes, so similar to mine, were filled with worry. "That man isn't worth your tears." "It's not just about the job, Mama," I muttered, absently stirring the rice and beans she had prepared. "It's how he made me feel. Like I'm nothing." Mama sat on the edge of the bed, her calloused hands stroking my hair. "Maya, my girl, you are so much more than any rich man could ever imagine. If he doesn't see that, it's because he's blind." Meanwhile, on the 47th floor of Chen Industries, Vincent Chen was having the worst week of his business life. And it wasn't because of the business. For the 5th time that morning, he found himself staring at the desk where Maya used to sit. The new temporary secretary, a scandalously efficient blonde named Rebecca, was there, perfectly organizing his appointments and never making a single mistake. And Vincent hated her. Not for her competence, but because she wasn't Maya. Rebecca didn't shyly smile when he arrived in the morning. She didn't leave little post-its with motivational messages discreetly attached to his reports. She didn't bring that warm energy that, now Vincent realized, had become an essential part of his mornings. "Mr. Chen," Rebecca interrupted his thoughts. "Your meeting with the board is in 10 minutes. Cancel it," he said abruptly. "But sir, it's about contracts." "I said cancel it." His voice came out rougher than he intended. Rebecca stepped back, clearly intimidated. And in that moment, Vincent found himself doing exactly what he had done with Maya, using his power to make someone feel small. The difference was that Maya had never stepped back. Even when he was in his worst mood, she kept that gentle smile and found a way to soften the situation. Like when she discreetly left a cup of jasmine tea on his desk after particularly stressful meetings, or when she rearranged his schedule so he had 15 minutes of downtime between appointments. Little gestures he had ignored for 3 years. Little gestures that now made an absurd amount of difference. Vincent pulled out his laptop and, for the first time in his career, did something he never imagined he would do. He researched Maya Rodriguez on the internet. What he found left him paralyzed. Maya Rodriguez wasn't just a secretary. She was Maya Elena Rodriguez Chen, adopted daughter of Maria Chen, a respected Chinese-American philanthropist who had passed away 5 years ago. Maria Chen, who had been a close friend of his own mother, Li Wei Chen. Vincent felt the blood drain from his face. Maya wasn't just any employee. She was practically family. And he had treated her like garbage. But there was more. Continuing the research, he discovered that Maya had graduated magna cum laude in business administration from Columbia University, but had hidden her qualifications to land the secretary job. Why? The answer came in a newspaper article from 6 years ago. Young woman loses entire inheritance in financial scam and has to start over from scratch. Vincent read and reread the article. Maya had lost a $2 million fortune that Maria Chen had left her, a victim of an elaborate Ponzi scheme. She had chosen not to sue the scammer because he was the father of young children, showing a generosity that Vincent had never seen in the business world. And she had chosen to work as a secretary, hiding her true identity and qualifications, rather than accepting charity or asking for help. Vincent sank into his executive chair, feeling smaller than he had ever felt in his life. He had humiliated a woman who was nobler, more generous, and stronger than he would ever be. A woman who had every right to be in that office, not as an employee, but as his equal. That afternoon, Maya was at the small Mexican cafe where her Aunt Rosa worked, helping serve tables to earn a few dollars when her phone rang. It was an unknown number. Maya Rodriguez? The voice on the other end was formal, professional. "Yes. My name is James Patterson, attorney at Patterson and Associates. I represent a client who would like to make you a job offer. Could you meet tomorrow to discuss the details?" Maya furrowed her brow. "What kind of offer?" "Director of Strategic Development for a large corporation. Starting salary of $250,000 annually, plus benefits. My client prefers to remain anonymous for now, but I can assure you it's a legitimate offer." Maya's heart raced. It was impossible. Who would offer such a position to someone who had just been fired from a secretary job? I can think about it, of course, but I'll need an answer by tomorrow night. I'll send you the details via email in an hour. When Maya hung up, her hands were trembling. Something was happening, and she had the strange feeling that Vincent Chen was behind it. What she didn't know was that, at that exact moment, Vincent was in front of the mirror in his office, rehearsing an apology speech he never thought he would need to make. And that everything he had discovered about her was just the tip of the iceberg of who Maya really was. 11 Madison Park Restaurant was the kind of place Maya never imagined setting foot in. While waiting at the entrance, observing people dressed in clothes that cost more than her 6-month rent, I questioned for the 100th time if I should be there. Miss Rodriguez? A tall man with gray hair and an impeccable suit approached. James Patterson. Thank you for accepting my invitation. We walked to a reserved table, and I tried not to look too impressed by the elegance of the place. Mr. Patterson, can I be direct? This offer seems too good to be true. He smiled mysteriously. Believe me, my client has her reasons for wanting to hire you. Client? I thought it was a male client. Actually, a familiar voice cut through the air like a lightning bolt. It's me. My heart stopped. Vincent Chen was standing beside our table, wearing a dark gray suit that highlighted his penetrating eyes. But there was something different about him. The arrogance had been replaced by a vulnerability I had never seen before. You. I stood up abruptly, the chair almost tipping over. What do you want? Maya, please give me 5 minutes to explain. 5 minutes. My voice rose an octave. You humiliated me, fired me, made me feel like trash, and now you want 5 minutes? People at nearby tables started looking, but Vincent didn't seem to care. His eyes never left mine. You're right, he said quietly. I was an asshole. But I found out things about you, about who you really are, and I need to apologize properly. Apologize? I laughed bitterly. You think your apologies will erase what you said? How you looked at me. Vincent took a step closer, and I could smell that masculine perfume that always made me dizzy during the 3 years of working for him. Maya, I know about Maria Chen. I know she was your adoptive mother. I know about Colombia, about your inheritance, about everything you lost. I felt the blood drain from my face. How do you? Because I needed to understand why I couldn't stop thinking about you since you left my office. His voice was hoarse, full of emotion. Because I needed to understand why the absence of a simple secretary was destroying me inside. My legs weakened, and I had to lean on the table. You had no right to investigate my life. No, I didn't. He agreed immediately. But now that I know who you really are, I understand why I always felt different when I was around you. Why your smiles could brighten my worst days. Why you're the only person who never feared me, but also never tried to use me. Vincent. My voice came out as a whisper. Maria Chen was like an aunt to me, Maya. She and my mother were best friends. When she died, I should have sought you out. I should have offered help. But I was so immersed in business, so obsessed with proving I was worthy of the family legacy. Tears started streaming down my face. You didn't know, but I should have. He slammed his fist lightly on the table. And when I found out you'd been working for me for 3 years, hiding who you really were because you lost everything and were strong enough to start over from scratch. Maya, I felt like the biggest idiot on the planet. The restaurant had gone completely silent around us, but neither Vincent nor I cared. The job offer is real, he continued. But it's not charity. You deserve to be running companies, not serving coffee. Your master's thesis on sustainable development strategies for multinational corporations was cited in 3 of my latest acquisitions. My eyes widened. You read my thesis? I've read everything you've written. Maya, you're brilliant. And I was too stupid to see it. Suddenly, the anger that had been burning in my chest for days began to transform into something more dangerous. Something that suspiciously resembled forgiveness. Why are you doing this? I asked, my voice trembling. Vincent hesitated for a moment, then took another step toward me. Now we were so close I could see golden freckles in his dark eyes. Because in the last 3 days, I realized it wasn't just my prejudice that blinded me, he said softly. It was fear. Fear. Fear of admitting I was in love with my secretary. The words came out in a whisper that hit me like lightning. Fear of recognizing that a woman I thought was beneath me was, in fact, light years ahead of me in everything that truly matters. The world stopped. Vincent Chen, the ruthless tycoon, the man who commanded a billion-dollar empire, had just confessed that he was in love with me. Vincent. couldn't form words. I'm not asking for you to forgive me immediately, he said, his hands trembling slightly. I'm asking for a chance to prove that the man who humiliated you isn't who I really am. A chance to show you the man your adoptive mother saw in me. The man she said I could be if I stopped trying to prove my worth to the whole world. I stayed silent for long moments, my heart beating so fast I was sure he could hear it. Maya. His voice was full of vulnerability. Say something. Please. I looked into his eyes and saw something I had never seen before. Vincent Chen completely exposed. No masks, no shields. Just a man risking everything in complete honesty. I accept the job offer, I said finally. The relief on his face was palpable. But not for you, I continued and saw the hope fade from his eyes. For me. Because you're right, I deserve more. And I will prove to you and to myself exactly what I'm capable of. Vincent nodded slowly. That's fair. And about the other thing. I hesitated, feeling butterflies in my stomach. About what you said about being in love. Maya, you don't need. I've been in love with you too, I interrupted, and the words came out in a torrent. For 3 years, I dreamed of you. I dreamed that one day you would see me as more than just an employee. And when you humiliated me like that, it wasn't just my pride you hurt. It was my heart. Vincent's eyes filled with tears he tried to hold back. But love isn't enough, I continued. Trust is something that's earned. And you'll have to earn mine again. Vincent nodded firmly. I will earn it, Maya. If it's the last thing I do in this life, I will earn your trust back. What neither of us knew was that, watching from a distant table, someone was photographing our meeting. Someone who had their own plans to destroy the growing closeness between us. And that Maya's past held even deeper secrets than Vincent had uncovered. 2 weeks later, I was sitting in my new office on the 45th floor of Chen Industries, looking out the window at the stunning view of Manhattan. Strategic Development Director. My own office with a view of Central Park. A salary that would change my family's life forever. And Vincent Chen trying to win my heart in every possible way. Knock knock. Come in, I said, without lifting my eyes from the reports I was reviewing. Miss Rodriguez? It was Marcus, Vincent's assistant. Mr. Chen would like to know if you have time to review the green tech acquisition proposal. I sighed. It was the 5th professional consultation of the day. Vincent was finding every excuse to work directly with me. Tell Mr. Chen I'll send him my feedback via email in an hour. Actually, the familiar voice made me look up. I'd prefer to discuss it in person. Vincent was standing at the door, holding 2 cups of jasmine tea and wearing that smile that always made my stomach flip. In the last 2 weeks, he had become a completely different man. Patient, attentive, respectful, but also persistent in a way that was melting my defenses. Vincent, we've already talked about this, I said, trying to keep a professional tone. At the office, we are colleagues. Colleagues who need to work together on the biggest acquisition of the year, he replied, moving closer and placing one of the cups on my desk. And who happen to like the same type of tea. I couldn't suppress a small smile. Happen to. Maybe not so accidentally, he admitted, his eyes gleaming with amusement. In the last few days, Vincent had shown me a side of him I had never seen before. The man who asked about my family, who remembered that I liked brown sugar in my coffee, who had discreetly increased the salary of all junior employees after I casually mentioned that many were struggling financially. Well, I said, taking the tea, let's talk about green tech. For an hour, we discussed merger strategies, analyzed financial reports, and debated corporate sustainability. And for an hour, it was easy to pretend we were just 2 professionals working together. Until Vincent made a brilliant observation about resource optimization that made me look at him with genuine admiration. What's wrong? He asked, noticing my gaze. Nothing, it's just that. I hesitated. You're really very smart. Seems like you're surprised, he said with an ironic smile. It's not that. It's just that before, when I was your secretary, you never let me see this side of you. The side that actually thinks, that cares. Vincent's expression grew serious. Maya, when you were my secretary, I was so focused on keeping my distance from you that I built walls everywhere. Because if I let you see who I really was. What? I knew I'd fall hopelessly in love with you. And I thought I didn't deserve someone like you. My heart raced, but before I could respond, my phone rang. Maya Rodriguez, I answered, grateful for the interruption. Miss Rodriguez? This is Detective Sarah Mills, from the NYPD. I need to speak with you about some photographs we received. My blood ran cold. Photographs? Did you have a meeting at 11 Madison Park 2 weeks ago with Vincent Chen? I looked at Vincent, who had stiffened at the mention of his name. Yes, but someone sent these photos to several gossip blogs with an anonymous note claiming that you are involved in insider trading. I need you to come to the station for clarification. The phone slipped from my hand. Vincent grabbed it quickly. Detective Mills? This is Vincent Chen. Can I know exactly what you're suspecting? His voice was controlled, but I could see the anger boiling in his eyes. Mr. Chen, someone is claiming that your relationship with Miss Rodriguez is a way to manipulate insider information for personal gain. That's absurd. Vincent exploded. Maya is the most honest person I know. Still, we need to investigate. And sir, there's more. The photos came with documents suggesting that Miss Rodriguez might not be who she says she is. I felt the world spinning around me. What documents? I'd prefer to discuss it in person. Can you come to the station now? When Vincent hung up, his eyes were filled with concern. Maya, do you know who could have done this? I shook my head, but a cold sensation spread through my chest. There was only one person who knew all the details about my past. One person I had trusted completely, who had betrayed me before. David, I whispered. Who's David? My ex-fiancé. The man who ran the Ponzi scheme and stole my inheritance. Vincent's eyes widened. What? I lied to you, Vincent. David wasn't a stranger. He was the man I loved. The man I was going to marry. And when he disappeared with all my money, my voice faltered. Maya. Vincent moved closer, but I pulled back. You don't understand. I pretended I didn't know him to protect my dignity. But if he's back, if he has photos of us. Tears began to stream down my face. Vincent, there are things about me you don't know. Things that could destroy you too. I don't care what. You should care. I yelled. Because David Miller isn't just an ordinary con man. He works for very powerful people. People who can use our relationship to destroy your company. Vincent stared at me for a long moment, then grabbed his keys. Where are you going? We're going to the station, he said simply. Together. Vincent, you don't understand. If you're seen with me now, if you're associated with this scandal. Maya. He cupped my face in his hands, forcing me to look into his eyes. 3 weeks ago, I humiliated you because I cared more about appearances than about you. Do you think I'm going to make the same mistake twice? But your company can go to hell if it means abandoning you when you need me the most. In that moment, looking into Vincent's determined eyes, I knew he had truly changed. And I also knew I was hopelessly in love with him. But as we headed down to the parking lot, neither of us noticed the hooded figure watching us from across the street, speaking quietly on the phone. Yes, they're leaving together, the voice said. No, she still doesn't suspect anything about who really sent the photos. You can proceed with the next phase of the plan. The real war was just beginning. The precinct was in chaos when we arrived. Reporters crowded the entrance, cameras flashing in our direction. Vincent protected me with his body as we made our way to Detective Mills. Miss Rodriguez, Mr. Chen, thank you for coming, she said, leading us to a reserved room. We have some interesting developments in the case. She opened a file and spread the photographs on the table. They were images of us at the restaurant, but there was something odd about them. These photos were digitally manipulated, said the detective. Whoever sent them put false documents in your hands, making it look like you were exchanging insider information. I felt an immense sense of relief, but Vincent furrowed his brow. Who would do this? And why? That's the most interesting part, Detective Mills continued. The envelope came with these fingerprints. She showed us a report. Richard Chen. Vincent went pale. My cousin? That's impossible. Richard Chen, vice president of Chen Industries, who would be next in line if something happened to you, the detective explained. Apparently, he hired David Miller to get close to Miss Rodriguez 6 years ago. My world collapsed. What? David Miller never fell in love with you, Miss Rodriguez. He was paid to steal your inheritance and break you emotionally. The plan was for you to never discover his true identity and never become a threat. A threat to whom? Vincent asked, but I already knew the answer. With trembling hands, I pulled out my wallet and took out a document I had kept for years. Detective, I need to show you something. It was a birth certificate. My real name, Maya Elena Chen Rodriguez. Vincent looked at the document and then at me, completely shocked. I'm not just Maria Chen's adopted daughter, I said, my voice choked. I am her biological daughter. And my father. I looked at Vincent, was James Chen. Your uncle. The silence in the room was deafening. This means you are. Vincent whispered. The rightful heir to 40% of the shares of Chen Industries, I finished. Richard knew this. That's why he orchestrated everything to destroy me before I discovered who I really am. Detective Mills nodded. David Miller confessed everything in exchange for protection. Richard Chen was planning to get rid of Vincent too, using the scandal with you as an excuse to force a leadership change at the company. At that moment, the door swung open violently. Richard Chen entered, accompanied by 2 lawyers, his face a mask of rage. Maya dear, he said with a cruel smile. Still playing at being someone important? Richard, Vincent stood up, his voice cold. How could you do this? Do what? Protect our family from an imposter. Richard laughed. Vincent, you've always been too naive. This woman appeared out of nowhere, and you really thought it was a coincidence. She didn't appear out of nowhere, Vincent said, his voice growing. She's our family. She's a bastard who shouldn't even exist. Richard exploded. James was weak, got involved with a Mexican maid, and left an heir who could destroy everything we built. The insult hit like a slap, but instead of feeling small, I felt a strength I had never experienced. You're right about one thing, Richard, I said, standing up. I will destroy everything you built. But not Chen Industries. Just your reign of fear and manipulation. I pulled out my phone and showed the screen. This whole conversation is being streamed live to the company's board of directors. They've heard every word. Richard's face turned pale. And one more thing, I continued, David Miller wasn't the only person you hired. We have evidence that you manipulated stocks, bribed public officials, and committed tax fraud. The FBI is on the way to arrest you. As if summoned, federal agents entered the room at that very moment. Richard Chen, you're under arrest for conspiracy, fraud, and money laundering. As they took Richard away in handcuffs, he shouted, This isn't over, Maya. You'll never be a true Chen. Vincent moved toward me and took my hand. He's wrong. You've always been more of a Chen than he will ever be. 3 hours later, we were at Vincent's penthouse, watching the sunset over Manhattan. The board had unanimously voted to make Vincent the permanent CEO and offered me the position of executive vice president. So, Vincent said, pouring champagne for us, Maya Chen Rodriguez, heir to an empire, business genius, the bravest woman I've ever met. Is there still room in your heart for an arrogant Chinese tycoon who finally learned the value of love? I laughed, feeling finally free. It depends. Is this arrogant Chinese tycoon willing to share the command of his empire with a stubborn Mexican Chinese woman who doesn't take orders? Not just willing, he said, kneeling in front of me and pulling out a small velvet box. Desperate to do this for the rest of his life. My heart stopped when he opened the box, revealing the most beautiful ring I had ever seen, a diamond surrounded by jade, representing our 2 cultures. Maya Elena Chen Rodriguez, Vincent said, his voice trembling with emotion. You've taught me that true power doesn't come from intimidating others, but from lifting them up. That true wealth isn't about how much you have, but how much you're willing to give. Will you marry me, and let's build an empire based on love, not fear? Tears streamed down my face as I whispered, yes. 1 year later, Forbes magazine featured our photo on the cover, the couple who revolutionized Wall Street. Vincent and I had transformed Chen Industries into the first major corporation with 100% sustainable practices and fair wages for all employees. David Miller was serving a 15-year prison sentence. Richard Chen got 25 years and lost all of his assets. And me? I finally realized I had always been a queen. I just needed to stop letting others convince me I was a commoner. In our house in the Hamptons, while Vincent held me and we watched the sunrise, he whispered in my ear, Thank you for teaching me that being rejected can turn into being a queen, but only when you find a king who recognizes your worth. No, my love, I replied, kissing his lips gently. Thank you for teaching me that I've always been a queen. I was just waiting for the right kingdom to rule. And as the sun rose over our new life, I knew that sometimes the greatest revenge isn't destroying those who rejected you. It's becoming so spectacular that they spend the rest of their lives regretting losing you. Because every woman deserves a love that sees her as a queen, not as a servant. And every man who recognizes a queen when he sees her deserves to rule beside her forever.